Well, just got off an amazing coaching call, and I wanted to say it takes so much courage to tell the truth. Every time I get off my coaching calls, I'm so inspired by the people who are willing to have truthful, honest conversations. Because the truth is often ugly. When I talk about honest conversations, I talk about picturing yourself reacting to someone you love and care deeply about, and yet for some reason you choose to lash out at them or get passive aggressive. Why? Because the truth is, I want to tell you something that I'm embarrassed to talk about. I want to tell you that what you're doing right now is triggering something from my past that makes me feel insecure about myself. Like I don't matter, like I'm not important. And I'm afraid that if I don't speak up, if I don't change something, that you're going to leave me. Now that's hard to say. That is so hard to say in relationships, which is why most of us don't say it. We say the other thing instead. We say, you're wrong, you should change, this isn't working, you should be different, I deserve this, I deserve that, rather than actually have the conversation that is going to be something that's going to be scary to do. That's why you notice in all my content, I'm looking to help people get curious about what there is for them to do or say. I will never tell you what to do or say because that would be me projecting my own beliefs onto you. Instead, I hope to encourage people to tell the truth, to say what's really going on for them. You know, when I look at where me and my wife are now at our marriage, it has only been possible that it's this extraordinary now because both of us have shared things that we've been embarrassed about. That we were scared, if I say this, she's going to think I'm weak or small or incapable. Even though it's the very thing that's in the background of all of our conversations. And so the truth may feel ugly, but it really is, I believe, a result of extraordinary courage to tell the truth, to say what we're really scared of in our relationships, without blaming anybody, without projecting any responsibility onto them, but saying things like, I'm really scared to tell you that when you do this, it reminds me of when my ex cheated on me. And every time this happens, it's not your fault, you didn't cheat on me, I feel the need to control or protect myself. And I'm doing that because it's just what I'm used to, and I'm not sure another way. That takes extraordinary courage to own that. It takes no courage at all, to go, you shouldn't do that, you're wrong, you need to change. That doesn't take courage. It doesn't even take effort. And so where we can look to bring the truth forth is really what I'm always looking to encourage. So I'm going to stay on here for another 10 minutes or so and answer some questions. So if you got some relationship-based questions, please write it in the question box or in the chat, and I'll scroll around and look for that. If you're curious about coaching, you can apply for coaching through the link in my bio. My next program starting in November. I've got a few other things that I offer besides my program. So if you're curious about that, reach out to me in the DMs or apply for a coaching call. Our work's all about creating partnership around the world. So go ahead and write any questions. I'll scroll around, see if anyone's got any questions. And if nobody does, I'll hop off. But if you do, I'm happy to answer. Oh, great. There we go. What about in the context of parent-child relationships? When they don't have the capacity to process any of that, is it okay for me to cut them off? I would need more specifics. When it comes to parent-child relationships, I think it's very important that a parent is responsible for the capacity of a child. Okay? What I mean by that is children don't make all their decisions for themselves. That's the job of the parent. And so we got to look to see what is the capacity, what is actually appropriate for the bandwidth of that kid. There are some things that many of us have probably experienced that our parents told us, and maybe it would be better for us to be older before we were in the space to hear that, or at the very least, more mature. So that really depends on more specifics in regards to that question. But I would say as a parent, it's our responsibility to look at what the capacity of that individual is. What about women should not chase? You'll need a bit more of a specific question than that. He gets distance after 4 weeks of texting and really good first date. Yeah, you gotta make sure, if you want to ask a question, make sure it's clear. There we go. Have you heard of the scramble method used by some men in getting the attention of women? I've never heard of this term, scramble method. What does that mean? What is the scramble method? There's always new terms and new things coming out. People trying to tell people the way. See, this is the funny thing, right? I wouldn't consider myself to be the average relationship coach because I don't, I'm completely against the whole you should do this and this means this and someone says that, then it means that. To me, that's still all fear-based. That's still all of us trying to avoid responsibility and control. And everything that I'm about in my coaching and in my content is to foster an element of courage, to give you the skills and abilities to be able to have any conversation with anyone. So when I see something like the scramble method, my brain immediately goes to, that is some way I'm trying to manipulate or control. That's where my brain goes to. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But I think so many of us are going about relationships and dating backwards. We're trying to mitigate fear rather than own our insecurity and go to work on those parts of us that are insecure. So instead of that, because that's scarier, we look outwards and go, okay, I'm going to search for red flags and I'm going to try to pick the perfect person. It's like, that's still just insecurity. It's just been guided in a different direction. So that's one of my rants for you. Scrolling question. I've just come out of a toxic relationship. There's a girl who really likes me and who's very nice, but I can't seem to like her because I can't trust people now. What should I do? Well, here's the thing. You just got out of a toxic relationship, okay? So it's a lot to expect you to suddenly go back to your baseline, be in your neutral place of feelings, to then have attraction towards someone else. And so what I'm hearing in the background of your question is you want to move forward in a productive way. You don't want to fake it, even though this person's really nice and they like you, like that's wonderful. But you don't want to force yourself in that situation because you're not actually there. So you're coming from a really beautiful place. I'm hearing there's some space for you to heal from this. There's just some space and some time for you to take that you want to take. I'm hearing you actually want to take that. And maybe that still could turn into something with this person. But it sounds like you're looking to be handling this in a responsible way that doesn't cause any sort of, dishonesty. So sounds like you already know what to do. You're just feeling like you have to gotta convince yourself to want to be with this girl, but you just don't right now. And so my advice to you is to listen to your gut. I think you're on a great track right there. Scrolling. Any other questions? How do you handle people that always try to play the victim for every time and doesn't take accountability for their actions? I stopped participating. So it's kind of like the classic thing, stop speaking to someone who's not listening, all right? If I'm trying to get through to you and you're not listening to me, that's my fault because I'm still trying to get through to someone who's not listening, right? So it's the same with coaching. I don't coach anybody who's not willing to be coached. There's no point in doing that. So if you're trying to get someone to take accountability who's not taking accountability, the best place to look is where are you participating in that you're unwilling to anymore. There's some step that you want to take back and you're not taking that step. You're trying to get them to see something for themselves. But if they're not open to it, that's just you trying to beat a dead horse. It's not going to work. So there's some way you want to look at how you can separate yourself from that. He has a tendency of pulling me in and then pushing me out and then making me wait in the hold. What's that about? So again, my conversation is always going to be not to figure out what he's doing. My conversation is going to be figure out what you're doing. And so in that situation, if someone's pulling you in and then pushing you out, my question to you is, what are you tolerating that you don't want to? Because no one can push and pull me that I don't let, that I don't allow. And so if you're getting pushed and pulled by someone, then you want to start to ask, What am I saying yes to that I want to say no to? What doesn't work for me here that I'm not interrupting? So maybe there's a conversation to have. Maybe there's a boundary to set down. Maybe there's something for you to go, hey, this doesn't work for me. This is what would work for me. Are you open to that? And if you're not, thank you very much. It was a pleasure getting to know you. Right? And I get there's probably some fear on having that conversation. But don't make it about them. Make it about you here. My therapist told me I have anxious attachment. I asked my 9-year-old sister about my early childhood, 9 years older sister, about my early childhood. And she said both parents were present, loving, and caring. So what could it be? Well, you could still have present, loving parents and still have an anxious attachment. Anxious attachment has a lot to do with your perception of your experience, not necessarily your actual experience. So it still could be that. And maybe your parents were present, loving, and caring more from her perspective and less from yours growing up. So I would focus less on like what actually happened and more how to heal and transform into secure attachment, which you definitely can do. That's Amir Levine has a great book on that called Attached, and I spend a lot of that work on my course. So there's ways to go to work on that, but I'd focus less on how you got there and more on what you're going to do from here. I understand the question about chasing. If women should stay waiting for the man to take action when he doesn't do it. Yeah. So the whole women waiting for men to take action, I heard, I think Matthew Hussey said this in an interview, that this is a myth. This is what he said. He said this is a myth, and I could see how this is the case, that women are waiting for men to approach. But the real reason that men approach is often because they think the woman has some interest in them. To give you a personal example, I only approached my now wife because I thought she was looking at me at the bar. She didn't approach me. She didn't do anything other than look at me. And so that was my green light, although it felt like a yellow light because I was scared shitless. That was my green light to move forward. But the idea that someone's just going to approach you out of nowhere for nothing, to me, makes no sense and is a waste of time. That there is somehow almost like something you put down, like the door is open, are you going to walk through? Whether that's eye contact, whether that's a gesture, whether that's a smile. I think one of the things that so many of us don't do, and I see it everywhere, is just smile at each other. Like if you're a woman and you want to attract a man, are you giving space for that attraction to come in? You know, you're not saying you got to go approach him. Maybe that's not for you, and that's fine too. But are you creating an opportunity for that approach? Because as someone who's quite a confident person and is secure, I was still often very scared to go up to women and talk to them. I wouldn't just go up to any woman. I'd go up to a woman who I would feel have some sort of mutual connection. So that to me is the key part that I think women play in the heterosexual dating world. If we're speaking of the gender kind of traditional values there. What routine practices help you love yourself? Thanks for that question. Well, I think routine in general is really amazing. So things that I do, I meditate almost every single day. I think meditation is a superpower that many of us don't understand. I think it's going to be one of those things 50 years from now where they're going to be like, you realize if you meditate, you get like double your brain capacity or something? I don't know. That's my guess. So that's one thing. I listen to a woman called Abraham Hicks on YouTube every morning. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. She just has this beautiful positivity about the way she speaks. I didn't even know what she was about for the longest time. I just like the words she used. And it just kind of primes me for the day. Other things in my routine, I do an ice bath. I hate to talk about it because everyone talks about ice baths, but I have an ice bath at home, and I do an ice bath every morning. I don't know if that's to help me love myself. That's just more to remind me that I can do hard things. And just feels good afterwards, wakes me up. What else? I mean, the most obvious stuff is I say no to what's a no for me, and I say yes to what's a yes for me. You know, I'm really clear about who I am and what I stand for. And the more I do that, the easier it is to love myself. And so it's hard to love ourselves when we're participating in things we know don't work for us. Whether it's what we eat or what we spend time on. It's almost like this circle of resentment. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I should be doing something different. Oh, I'm so stupid. And now it's just like this perpetuating cycle of self-blame. And That's brutal, which any of us can get into. So I think it's great that you're looking at it from a place of routine standpoint. And if you're looking at it more generally, I'd just say, okay, what are the things in my life? And start small. Start small. Too many people will do too big. What are some things in my life that I'm saying yes to that I want to say no to? What is something that I keep neglecting that I want to put a little bit of time towards? Can I put a little bit of time towards that? Tiny bit. And watch that thing build momentum. Really believe in that. You're so welcome. Thank you for the question about your breakup. Really, it takes courage to have that kind of question, to want to have a relationship of authenticity and honesty. My ex and I are on a break, about 3 months. He says he may be ready for us to live together again soon, but he says he's not ready yet. Should I live with him? Well, definitely don't live with him until he says he wants to live with you. That'd be rule number 1 right there. Well, I think rather than focusing on whether you guys should live together or not, why did you go on a break, and have you figured out how to repair what had you end up on a break? Because what I see so often with people who break up and get back together is they didn't deal with the source of their breakup. They missed each other. They started to long for each other, so they got back together for that reason, rather than what is it going to be that's going to have our relationship actually work. And I doubt that what's going to have it work is just simply living together. So I would focus on that part rather than whether you should live with him or not. That's my invitation. All right, 1 or 2 more questions. Then I got to go see about my wife and my baby. I feel pushed back and go on distance and link this to my feelings of being manipulated. Sometimes I feel like I'm cross-eyed reading these just because they're in the middle of the screen. Or used because of my own commitment triggers linked to investing in my relationship. Sorry, there's no question there. Make sure you guys are asking questions. Should an anxious attached man who's becoming secure chase an avoidant woman? You should never chase an avoidant person. You should never chase anyone, really. But yeah, so if you're an anxious man who's becoming secure, should you chase an avoidant woman? So an avoidant person is going to trigger your anxiety. It's called the anxious avoidant trap. And so the more anxious you get, the more avoidant she gets, and the more avoidant she gets, the more anxious you get. So it becomes a brutal and a very difficult arena to build your security. So I would say no. That being said, you love who you love. My wife is a recovering avoidant attacher, and I always say I'm a recovering anxious attacher, because we're both secure now, but we can get triggered and activated in our states, just like any human being can. So I would recommend going for someone secure, but you love who you love. So just know that you're going to have to really be on your toes about your anxious attachment being triggered. Your thing to continue to become secure is to practice pausing and not moving off of your first reaction, because your first reaction is likely out of anxiety when you're triggered. So your job is to sit still often, to slow down, to take your time, to pause, to let your second thoughts come. All right? Otherwise, it's going to be a mess, because it's very predictable, the anxious and avoidant attachment. But you got a great opportunity to become secure. Someone says, I'm gay with anxious attachment, infatuated with a buddy that's avoidant. What's the best method to look at him as a friend rather than someone I can date? He's straight, by the way. Well, the avoidant and anxious attachment part is less important than the fact that you're gay and he's straight. So, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. If you're going after someone who's straight and you're gay, it's almost like the perfect form of self-sabotage. You're literally picking someone who is 100% not available for you. So I would invite you to look at what do you get out of liking someone like that? Like, what does it give you permission to avoid by picking someone like that? Because it's kind of like a perfect storm. There's something that being gay and choosing someone who's straight, there's something that lets you off the hook from. It almost like keeps you safe in a weird way. It keeps you from having to play a game that you could actually win, versus kind of stacking the cards against you here. So I invite you to look from there. And of course, you guys, if you're curious about coaching, apply for coaching in my link in my bio. I even have this really amazing community I created where you can do live coaching calls with me and my team. That's available every week. We do a coaching call. That's only for $96 a month. You can sign up for that through the link in my bio. And then if you're interested in like full structured 4-month program with me, you can apply for that as well. I got a few different things that are available. So, okay, last one, you guys. You're so amazing. Thank you so much for the questions, by the way. Really, really just love it. How to give my partner security when there are doubts regarding commitment or something else based on a feeling of me pulling away. How do you give your partner security? So one of the things that we often don't do when we are triggered, activated, stuck, is we don't clearly ask for what we want. So many of us don't actually say exactly what it is we want. We say broadly things like, I wish you would appreciate more. I wish you'd make me feel more secure. And then the other partner is going, I thought I was, or I don't know how. And so if you're the person asking for that, how specific can you be? What is it that you want? Do you want them to bring you tea in the morning? Do you want a hug? Do you want them to just hear you talk so you can share? Do you want them to ask you out more? Do you want them to take the lead more? So that's where we get specific. So since you're the receiver here and you want to make your partner feel more secure, I would ask them, what would have them be secure? What are some things that I can do to help you feel more secure about our commitment? Now keep in mind, because what I also hear from people who are after something like this, meaning someone who's concerned about someone else's commitment, that they're also mitigating the fact that they are scared to trust. So for sure, you want to have them feel secure, but they also got to know that there's going to be a risk in commitment that is not guaranteed. It's called trust. There is no relationships that work without trust. And trust is inherently a risk. So there may be some feelings of insecurity there. That's just part of the game. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the questions. I'm sending you love with wherever you are in the world, whatever you're dealing with. Feel free to reach out for more support. Don't just watch the content. Get some coaching. Dive in deeper, okay? We got some amazing, amazing services available for people who want partnership in their lives. So sending you love, guys. Talk to you soon.